welcome back, guys, to another edition of the HurryUp podcast. I'm Anthony, and I'm here with my friends Adam.
Hey.
And new cohort of sorts, Bryan.
What's up?
And today we're going to be talking a little bit of Rockets news, of course. Going to talk some Astros, some Texans. It'll be a pretty good episode, I think. Kind of trying to lead into some Superbowl talk because that big game's coming up. And let's get right into it. Adam, you want to start us off?
Yes, sir. I just want to start off with some Rockets talk. We got Bryan here to help us out a little bit with that. Talk a little bit of last week. We've continued our struggles. Sadly, the Rockets went 1-3 since last Monday, losing to Milwaukee, Boston, picking up a hard-fought W in Philly, and then losing again fairly badly to the Pacers.
It's kind of sad going into the season. You had a lot of hype, and then they're hitting this kind of roadblock now all of a sudden, which happens in sports, especially like basketball and baseball, where you just have such long seasons.
We were really hitting some high strides. December we went 17-2, tied a franchise record in wins. I knew a slump was coming. I'd rather get the slump out of the way now and hopefully hit another hot streak come April and towards the playoffs. It's a little disappointing to see some losses against teams that I'd really like to see us beat, like Milwaukee. Milwaukee has Giannis Antetokounmpo, and he's a really, really good player, but I don't think that he's enough to beat us. And they did a good job against us. They forced James Harden's hand and forced others to pick up the slack, and they weren't able to do so.
Well, that's what we talked about last episode. I think that those complementary pieces around Harden really need to step up in times when he just can't do it by himself, and it seems like these past couple games they just really didn't do that.
No.
Which is
unsurprisingly, the recent slump has them losing their last 7 of their last 11 games. Not surprising. When you're losing games, great teams like the Warriors and the Spurs aren't just going to keep letting you mess up and not making you pay for it. And they're slowly but surely pulling a little further ahead in the conference standings. We're about 7 games back from the first spot. I'm not expecting to catch really either team. If we could just kind of stay in around the 3rd seed, I'd consider that a nice
if we get around the 3rd,
win for us.
Or stay around, because we're 1 game behind from or 1.5 games behind the Spurs right now. So that's in all likelihood, depending on how well we play, we could still maybe take over the Spurs or give them the real tight contest going into it.
Yeah, we're only 35-16. That's not bad.
No. And that's another thing. We've really overachieved a lot in comparison to the public standards. No one really saw us to be a really good team. Everyone was harping on Mike D'Antoni, and his teams always has horrible defense, and he wasn't going to be able to mesh well with James Harden because he couldn't do well with Kobe and Carmelo, and he's proven the doubters pretty wrong in my opinion.
Yeah, his defense still wasn't the greatest. Obviously you saw that against some probably less than stellar teams, especially I know the 76ers were on an incline a little bit, but the defense still wasn't able to really stop them for a good portion of that game, and it finally the offensive started coming back around.
No. And there was some times in that Philly game, and I knew it was going to be close. The 76ers these past few weeks have really been on a tear for their standards. They're a real promising team. They're not like the Lakers. I can kind of see some improvements and some strides in the right direction. Joel Embiid is looking like a beast for the 76ers in his rookie year, and it'll only be a lot better when Ben Simmons comes back. The Lakers are very dysfunctional at the moment, so it's kind of a trend between the two franchises that have been very poor in the recent years, but you can definitely see which of the two is treading in the positive direction rather than the latter.
Yeah, luckily. I don't know. It just makes me worry because, we had that sizable lead on the Clippers going into the standings, and all these recent drops have not helped us. And, the Clippers are only 5 games behind us at the moment.
Yeah. But they're not having great strides to begin with either. The Warriors blew them out and really had the game won because the Warriors had just played the Clippers within 3 quarters. I think that they're a little inflated, their stats. I don't think that they're as I think that they're seen as a better team than they really are, just because of their star power with DeAndre Jordan and Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, and the possibility of them swinging a trade for Carmelo Anthony, which would make things very interesting in the Western Conference. May or may not be
like
a
it
boost
isn't
to them.
already.
Oh yeah, there's a huge discrepancy in the West and the East.
There really is. I mean, the game difference between us are quite staggering. Actually, most of those players aren't even in the third players. Most of the teams aren't even in the 30s right now. I think only like a few are. Only 2 teams have got above 30 wins.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Teams in the West could be. This is a bit of a hyperbole, but they could be 10 games over 500, still miss the playoffs. People or teams in the East that are just 3 games under 500 still are an 8th seed. So I mean, it's just a big difference in competition.
That just shows how good our conference is compared to play-wise compared to the Eastern.
Well, I'll tell you, the 8th seed right now in the East is the Hornets, and they're at 23-25, so they're not even above 500 right now.
And that's exactly my point. And then that just paves the path for LeBron and makes it a lot easier getting to the finals. That's why he's always pretty much a lock. He doesn't have any stiff competition in the Eastern Conference. He has one team that'll sometimes give him a good run for his money, but in the long run, he just has too much star power, and there's no match for him.
Yeah, because right now, basically, the kind of star power. I mean, right now it goes Clippers, Celtics, and Raptors, and out of those 3, I only really see probably the Celtics giving him anywhere near the kind of fight. I think.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is kind of meandering around.
And there's possibilities that Carmelo could get traded over there, and I've read some reports that he might lift his no trade clause to go to the Celtics, so that makes things pretty interesting as well. Brad Stevens is a good young and up and coming coach for Boston, and they played us tough too whenever they played the Rockets last week. They have a real good basketball town. They were able to rally the city around their team, and I was watching that game, and they were just Isaiah Thomas was a beast. He's just hitting us and firing off on all cylinders. It was really no competition.
Well, I always feel like the past couple years, because I've kind of watched here and there, that the Celtics are really, and I know somebody who's a Celtic fan, they're consistent for sure. They're maybe not like the best, but they're very consistent.
Yeah,
is what I've figured out.
And their championships speak for themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, they have more. They lead the NBA in championships. The Lakers have 16, and they have the most. So they've had a very prideful past and history to their team. They've had a very successful history, and they're on the rise after slumping the past few years prior. So they're a good functional organization headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
In other news, to kind of break away from the Rockets, head a little bit towards the Astros direction. A couple years ago, you might remember in 2013, when Jeff Luhnow made his way to the Astros as the new GM. He used to be an assistant for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he foolishly came and took the GM job with the Astros, and I guess he didn't do what the average Joe might think is so simple, but he didn't change his passwords. So
gotta change those passwords.
Yeah, so he had a buddy, or so-called buddy, Christopher Correa, who ends up getting a promotion to lead their lead scouting director for the St. Louis Cardinals. He gets the gig, and for whatever reason, he tries out Jeff Luhnow's info, and it still works. The password and everything, and he ends up breaching Luhnow's profile over 40 times, taking peeks at the Astros' potential targets, whether it's free agents or trade acquisitions that they were interested in, and was able to hamper with what some moves that we were perhaps interested in. After 3 long years of going on 4, they're finally getting their punishment. He's being sentenced to a lifetime MLB ban after already serving 46 months in prison, because it was a federal law that he broke for hacking, and the Astros are going to be rewarded $2 million and 2 of the Cardinals' top draft picks.
So what I basically learned from this is that the MLB is better at punishing people than the NFL is.
Yeah.
Well, partially on that is it's just the NFL, the way they punish is ridiculous. They'll punish it for the stupidest things, and the things that need punished, they don't even bother.
Well, I feel like this is more like a double-edged sword, right? I mean, yes, it is shitty that he hacked in and got that kind of information. It sucks, it obviously affected us. But then again, you look at the person that's getting hacked and like, well, you didn't think to change your passwords, you didn't think to change anything up, or even the higher ups in that organization, the Astros organization, didn't say, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? I mean, I mean, of course, I like the punishment because what he did was wrong. But I also feel like it's a double-edged sword, and like maybe you put some of the blame also on the guy who for some reason didn't think, well, maybe I need to do this.
Well, yeah, it was almost too convenient when it happened, and then even then, like, when he came over here, they couldn't have already had it, like, reset, or he could have just already had something, like, pre-done. But so he already has info he could use, like, like a temporary thing, just when he first goes in there, so that he has to set up a new one.
It baffles me. I don't understand how that happens, but, I mean, it happened, obviously.
Especially for such a high-power position in the Major League of Baseball. That just boggles my mind. I mean, just like as it would if it happened in the NFL or NBA or so forth. I know this is probably a little crazy for me, but I would have loved to have seen a harsher punishment, to be honest. We got two of their top draft picks, but we got a 56th overall draft pick and a 75th. There's 30 teams in the MLB, so I mean, we're getting 56.
I guess.
I would have liked to have seen a top 30.
I guess, but you figure that those drafts, I mean, it's not like an NFL draft where it kind of affects the team immediately. Most of those drafts, they draft them and then they go.
Yeah, they go to single A.
Some other kind
they work up.
So they work up anyway. So I mean, even if it's you get that plus your own picks. I mean, I it's not bad to me. I mean, I don't. It's an okay punishment for an organization. It all depends on one thing. If the organization had knowledge that this was going on, if the Cardinals organization, if they knew it was going on, if they knew it was going on and they allowed it to happen, then yes, I could see where you say that this isn't very a punishment. $2 million and the picks. That's not much for an organization doing that. Now, if it's just him, that player, that person specifically, and the organization had no information about it, then I think it's a fair enough punishment, the jail time and a lifelong ban. I think that's a fair punishment. If, like I said, if it's only specifically for that one guy and not for an organization as a whole, if they had no idea what was going on.
I agree. I mean, I see what your take is, that why should the team be punished for something that they might not have had any knowledge of. It may have just been that one guy. I can see where you're coming from.
It's a team effort, though. It's one of those you're as strong as your weakest link. So I mean, it doesn't matter. He basically took information and he broke the team conduct. So the whole team needs to get punished for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if the whole team needs to get punished for it. That seems a little much to me, If an NFL player goes out and murders or does break some kind of content, or even if a MLB player does that, they're not going to punish the whole team.
Okay, but that's different. That's a different situation. This situation it's something that could have benefited the whole team and been more for the team's good.
If an NFL coach or an MLB coach got information from another player about their kind of play calls or anything like that, I mean, you're not going to punish the whole team for that one guy. You're going to punish that one guy. I'm just saying that the whole all or none kind of thing kind of doesn't sit well for me.
Well, I know, but plays and future prospects is a whole different situation, though.
I guess, like I said, I
get Bryan's take. He's just saying that if there's no one guy losing, the whole team loses. So I understand both of y'all's takes.
Well, in theory, the whole team loses in this, though.
Yeah.
In theory, if you ban this guy, well, I mean, if he was good at what he was doing, then you do punish the team, because now you got to go out and find somebody else, and you got to go promote or do whatever. So I mean, I guess it's one of those situations where it just sucks all around, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that the reason why I'm kind of looking for a harsher punishment is growing up an Astros fan, the Cardinals were always our biggest rival. I mean, not as much so because we're not in the same division anymore. I still I still view the Cardinals honestly as a team that I hate more than the Rangers, and I don't like the Rangers at all. Maybe that's just from growing up, always playing against them, the Albert Pujolses and the Chris Carpenters.
Yeah, those kind of really kind of cemented that. I remember growing up watching them and hating Cardinals just for that reason, just for Pujols and Carpenter alone.
Yeah.
I remember the boos that would come up and both of their names would be called.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
And it was always fun seeing Roy Oswalt and Lance Berkman go and try to go to battle, and we got the better of them a few times, and vice versa. So it was a good rivalry I miss. I think deep down, because I don't like them at all, is kind of why I would have loved to have seen something a little harsher.
Well, I mean, you say you want to see a little something harsher. I mean, what does that entail? Specify what would be harsher for you.
I think if they gave us the 2 top picks, instead of that 75th overall pick, they should have given us their top pick of next season's draft. Not this one, but next year's.
Well, you gotta think, though, I mean, the time it took over, what, 2 or 3 years? So, I mean, it's just, I feel like next year's would kind of been just dragging it on. Well, I know, that's what I'm saying, like, if they did next year's draft, that kind of would have dragged it on more and more than it really needs to.
Well, not so much the punishment. It just drug out long because this was a federal offense. This involved the FBI and a lot of the higher ups.
Well, I get what it is.
Well, yeah.
Once, not this draft, because this draft is already fast approaching, and to do all that logistically. But next draft, I mean, I see what you're saying.
It's kind of, to put it in football terms, we're getting a first and second round draft. I'd like to get 2 first round draft picks, I guess, to put it in simpler terms.
I guess, but I mean, it's one of those things. Like I said,
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's a first whatever, but that person's still gonna go down to single A and have to, or depending on how well he does double A, depending, but he's still gonna be there for a while. So.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining or anything. I mean, I'm happy that we're getting something rather than nothing. I mean, they hacked us, and they really didn't have any success even after they hacked us. For their team in general, and we're much better off than they are with our roster statistically and analytically. So I'm fairly happy with it. I just wish that their draft picks would have been maybe at least one in the top 30. It's a little depressing.
I guess. Yeah, I see what I see what you're saying. Now, how was that sentence handed down? Was that was from the MLB? Right, the court decided that's what they were doing, and the MLB passed down that.
No, the Supreme Court had ruled him guilty, and he was already sentenced to 46 months in prison. It was the MLB's job to sentence a punishment for the team.
Yeah, it was MLB handing it, the actual okay, so
yeah,
okay,
because the Supreme Court can't punish the team; they got to punish the man.
Why? Yes, I know that. I was just wondering, who came up with that.
No, it was everyone knew something was happening.
The Cardinals are also now without draft picks until the 3rd round when they make their 94th pick as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a punishment in itself, but yeah, okay.
So I mean that takes away that, like you were saying, you want their the higher picks. Well, it's taken away from them as well. I mean, we should have gotten it, but
yeah. And to kind of move a little bit further away from this Astros hacking scandal, wanted to mention one more thing about the Astros. Left-hand pitcher Dallas Keuchel was gonna throw his first bullpen session on Thursday, so that's pretty exciting. He had a season-ending shoulder inflammation last season, and he had a very poor season, and in Keuchel's terms, after having a Cy Young caliber year and really being one of the better arms in the MLB. A lot of people have speculated that maybe this inflammation kind of influenced his whole poor season, and it just came out later when we weren't doing so well, even though we were being very well competitive in the standings. So this is very promising to see. Hopefully he returns close to his performance that he was putting out a couple years ago.
I would hope so, because that performance really kind of propelled us into the playoffs. I mean, a good portion of that was the pitching coming up for us. I know that was a big problem last season, like we talked about, where that pitching was just not there. So if he can come back, almost 100% or at 100%, that'll be a big boost to this team that really does need it.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's all the Astros and Rockets talk I've got this week. I don't know if Bryan had anything else to maybe touch upon, or Anthony, if you had any closing statements before we move down to the next topic.
I just want to say, I know we kind of already way past it, but I've noticed, like, on the Rockets, the way our games have been going, all of our losses, they've been actually really close, which, I mean, I know that's still bad, but it's also promising. But the only major issue is that the past few games we lost, like you said, we lost 7 of the last 11. Those games have been terrible distance-wise in the points than the earlier games have been.
Well, it's that defense that we talked about where they just can't keep up if that other offense is clicking. If you can't score more points than they can, then you're going to lose. And I think I saw a lot of efforts in there.
Well, yeah.
A lot of it, I saw them getting tired, I think is what a lot of it was.
Yes, there's that as well. But I mean, it just, like the Bucks, we won 111-92, but then we lost 127-114. I mean, it's just, like you said, we were getting tired, but there's no excuse almost.
I think a lot of that has to do with our big men being set on the bench a little bit more. Like Clint Capella is a good interior defensive player. Montrezl Harrell is as well. We try to play a smaller ball, faster paced lineup so all 5 players can hit a 3-pointer, but that leaves us very vulnerable around the paint, and players like a Giannis Antetokounmpo and some bigger guys can drive to the rim at ease pretty much.
Yeah, I saw that their defense they were playing, it wasn't really press defense either. They were playing off of them quite a bit in a lot of those matches because, like you said, they were smaller guys on bigger guys, but they were playing off of them a lot, and they were getting. I saw a couple plays where they were just getting shuffled around, where they lost track of who they were covering, or there was miscommunication on what was going on a couple of those. So hopefully they get that fixed.
And that's Rockets basketball. That's the way Mike D'Antoni runs this team. He has no problems giving up the easy fast break bucket as long as we get out in transition and try and hit an open 3 and catch him off guard. That's why his philosophy of coaching is always seen as a big con, is because he doesn't really care about defense. He has no problem giving up the easy bucket as long as he can get his offense pushing up down the court quick.
Yeah, and when they're not, they definitely pay for it.
And if you're not, and that's a good point. If you're not making your shots, I mean, you're not playing defense to begin with. If you're not making your shots, you're not going to win the game.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yep. So that's all I got for this week with the Astros and the Rockets. I guess to move a little bit towards football. We got a big football finale coming up this week.
What? You don't say. Who?
I mean, we gotta talk football. Thought it'd be a little more professional, being a Houston podcast, to touch up a little bit on the Texans first.
Yeah, what they got going on?
Oh, well, small moves here and there. I think it's kind of a nice move, but the Texans hired former wide receiver Wes Welker on their offensive staff to help with the offensive unit as well as special teams.
But I thought he wasn't gonna have an offensive coordinator.
No, he's
I'm being
sarcastic.
Yes, I know, I'm being sarcastic. All right, look. Well, I think it's an interesting move because I liked Wes Welker as a player. I think he had a higher football IQ for a wideout. I mean, he's
got a very impressive resume as a player.
Yeah, and I think him being under Bill O'Brien, and kind of in a sense having sort of a connection with him for that many years. I think he was playing under him 2007 to 2012. I think there's definitely that chemistry there, and they kind of connect on what they want to do on offense, which I think will help them a lot, because I think a lot of what was wrong with this last season was that the offensive play calling at times was terrible. There were some questionable plays in there. I know Bill O'Brien, the back and forth between him and Gotze probably didn't help that at all, and I don't think there was exactly a chemistry there between them. So now that Wes Welker is coming in and he has that chemistry between the two, you can kind of it'll synchronize them and hopefully result in better play calling. I see on here also he was also signed up for offensive and special teams assistant. So we really do need help in that department for sure, because last year our special teams was just awful.
Yeah. And what I like that the biggest card, in my opinion, that he brings to the table is that he was a very physical wide receiver. So it'd be nice to see Will Fuller and even DeAndre Hopkins, to an extent, be a little bit more physical, add that physical presence whenever they're lining up.
Yeah, they're definitely they're not physical wideouts so much as they're
elusive.
They're elusive, and they're very. I had the word just a second ago, but performance or very.
They try to beat you
finesse.
with finesse moves. They try to beat you with their speed.
They're very finesse players, not physical players.
Yeah.
I think, because even last year and the year before that, if you go back and watch some of the Hopkins tape, he fights a little bit for the ball, but he's not. Sometimes he doesn't take hits very well. I think especially was a problem last year, is that he didn't. Some of the balls that he kind of got blindsided and didn't take hits well, so he kind of coughed up the ball a couple times because of it, which I think is something you never want to see from a wideout.
Yeah.
I don't see. I had the list pulled up here, and besides the Mark Rabel and the Romeo Cornell being assistant head coach, that's a weird title. Not much has really changed on here. Not more than I'd like. They still have the same special team coach, coordinator, which I'm not happy about.
I would like to see fired. I'm not a big Larry Izzo fan.
I would really like to see him fired. Nope.
Not with last year's special teams play at all.
Hopefully, hopefully this year kind of exposes him and we get him out the door, or he improves the team. I don't want to be negative the whole time. I don't
You
like
think
the
Andre
guy,
Johnson
but I
maybe
don't
gets
negative
looked
the whole
at as
time.
an offensive assistant? Maybe for wideouts?
I would hope so. Be like a wideouts coach.
Yeah.
I would like that. I'd like that a lot. I'd like for him to take a position, and that would be a perfect position for him. Whether he'll do it or not, I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. I think he may be content with sitting out a couple years, and maybe a couple years down the road, sure.
Yeah, it's something I'd like to see him take on. I'd like for him to stay within the organization. But as for moves, I don't really expect to see any other really big moves, especially this Super Bowl week, until maybe next week we might see another little ripple effect within the organization.
But I don't expect that much change, to be honest. I mean, they still had a winning season. Yes, you didn't go up or down, but I don't see them making much change, to be honest. Maybe not as much as they need to. Like I said, I'd like to see that special teams coach out, and I'd like to see the quarterbacks coach. I'd like to see him out. Sean Ryan, not a big fan of that guy, especially after last season's performance. Out of all of our quarterbacks, to be honest. Even that Tom Savage game, he's still a little rusty, and sometimes I don't think it's quite there, so...
To be honest with you,
changes.
We haven't really even touched on our running backs coach. I mean, for having some okay talent and depth at running back, I like Akeem Hunt. He's an okay backup. I think Lamar Miller is better than the numbers he's put up. We really underachieved, in my opinion, in the running back category this season.
Well, we'll see next year. I think next year is the defining factor for a lot of these coaches. I think Lamar... I think a lot of what his problem was is, one, our line. Our line is terrible. That did not help him at all. Didn't really give him that many holes. But I think a lot of what his problem was is transitioning from being an okay starter, a mid-level starter in the Dolphins, where they really didn't use him much, into taking on that full-time role as a starter. I think that, and getting banged up and hurt and contact a lot more, I think contributed to a lot of this season. So next season will definitely be the defining factor for is he quality level start, which I think he's quality level start, but I think I would like to see him go above and beyond that, of course.
Yeah. And that's pretty much there's not much Texans news circling around. The only other thing that I can think of is that we could touch a little bit on the Super Bowl. I feel that it's only appropriate to do so. So let's open it up. What's your thoughts about the upcoming Super Bowl?
So I think I think you should know where I'm leading on this. I would like to see the Falcons win. I really would. I'd like the Patriots to go down in flame after having a pretty great season, and I would like them to not hand the trophy to them. I know a lot of people would like to see them have to give the trophy to them, but
have
honestly,
to hand it to Brady.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of want to see Tom Brady, Robert Kraft, and Belichick's sad-looking faces on the sideline.
What about you, Bryan?
The Falcons are definitely the underdogs. They've gone 11-5 over the season. They've done incredibly good. Their offense has been great, but the problem is the Patriots' defense could possibly be good enough to kind of stop them just a little bit. That's the only thing I don't like. I can't say I want the Falcons to win and be 100% confident with it, because the Patriots, they've been just great. Even without Brady and Gronk, they've still been great, and it's just.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, I was just.
Well, I think we touched on that earlier. Yeah, they're the Patriots, but I mean, honestly,
well, I know, but
what teams have they faced? I mean,
well, yeah, they've had a sort of easier schedule per se, and the Falcons have came out of the dirt. I mean, no one honestly probably ever expected them to come out this way. And Matt Ryan this season has done impeccable, and he was garbage almost last year. So I mean, it's just.
You know who did predicted the Falcons would win a Super Bowl? And I told Adam about this article. EA Madden at the beginning of the season predicted everything, and they actually had the Falcons winning the Super Bowl.
But
at the very beginning,
did they predict the Browns winning a game?
You know, I didn't see that, to be honest. Did not look into that.
I think this game is going to be a fairly close game. I don't know if it'll be a shootout per se, like a lot of us are hoping it'd be. I hope it would be. I love shootouts. I love offensive firepower kind of games. But Dan Quinn is a really, really good up-and-coming coach. I'll be honest with you. Tom Brady has been here. I could see Matt Ryan getting a little bit of cold feet. I mean, there's a lot of up-and-coming teams that have been to the Super Bowl recently and not risen to the occasion. I mean, the most recent is the Carolina Panthers and their MVP, Cam Newton. Well, this season's MVP is Matt Ryan, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting. He's got to come out of the gates swinging, and Tom Brady's been here before. He's not going to have cold feet.
Yeah, but I think that... Oh, good.
No, okay, I was going to say the only issue I have at all with this game is the Falcons have kind of had a pattern, and it's not a good pattern. They've done great the whole game. They're kicking, and there's almost a guaranteed win. Come fourth quarter, it's like they put the brakes on everything, and the teams are coming back. Like when I went to the Saints and Falcons game, Falcons were destroying, and then the fourth quarter, the Saints almost came back, and then yet again, the Falcons did that in the playoffs here. And it was just uncalled for and ridiculous, and I feel like the Patriots are going to be able to take advantage of that.
Well, I think that's so much as a regular season thing. When you're winning by so much, usually you do put on the brakes. That way you don't take a chance of getting hurt or hurting anybody in the game. And you're winning by so much, it's pretty much a win. You know, most teams will coast. I know the Packers did that, and even the Patriots did that for a good while. So I think that going into these games, they're not going to slow down. I mean, I think that was evident in the Seahawks game. I think that was evident in the Green Bay game. Now they're in playoff mode, they're not going to slow down no matter what. You can do that in the regular season because it's the regular season, but now that they're in the playoffs, I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they'll take their foot off the brake, and I could see them getting into a shootout with Tom Brady. And honestly, I like shootouts. Considering that the last couple of Super Bowls have been defensive games, and defensive games are sometimes the most boring games. I'd hate to say it, but it's true.
This is going to be far from defense. The Falcons' offense is just going to be up there, and the Patriots' offense has been pretty decent as well. And it's just, yeah.
The keys...
Well, I'll say the...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was about to say the same thing, the keys to the game. Go ahead.
Well, in my opinion, the keys to the game is that Bill Belichick, is going to take a couple of their schemes out of the game. And the Falcons like to get Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman active, and they like to get Julio Jones out and moving. He's going to take Julio out, so they're going to have other players step up.
Yeah, but they have been. Mohamed Sanu and other players have really been stepping up in that absentee role when Julio can't do it. And even when Julio is taken out of a game, he's still there. I mean, Julio's still Julio. He's still going to do Julio-type things. So I don't think that he's going to be able to take him out the game entirely. And then in your backfield, you have Devontae Freeman and others in that backfield that's really going to help them out too, that really have been stepping up in their game as well. So I think
they've done great this season.
So I think the Falcons are kind of loaded in this game, to be honest, to take out and prime the Patriots for a loss. I mean, their defense has definitely been playing better these last couple games. That Packers game, they were all over the Packers. I mean, they've been stepping up. Their pass rushers have been getting after the quarterbacks for sure, been really stepping up. So if their pass rushers can get after Tom Brady, stir him up in the pocket and make him uncomfortable, then you're gonna have a win in this game. And if Matt Ryan can torch that Patriots defense, almost kind of like, I know that Seahawks and Patriots games were close, but they kind of did the same thing where they were just torching that Patriots secondary, and just if they can do that, because how it's probably going to happen is Malcolm Butler is probably going to be on Julio Jones most of the game, and they might even tag team him with another guy. So you leave some of the other corners, which some of the other corners on the Patriots defense are not great. You can get them if you can get them in the open field. So I think Mohamed Sanu and others will be able to get off of those corners way easier. And then you have Matt Ryan in the middle of the field getting easy looks in the middle of the field. Hopefully, it's probably the game plan.
The Patriots defense is the most overrated defense in the NFL, in my opinion. They've played some of the most weakest quarterbacks in the NFL. They've played Brock Osweiler. They've played Ryan Fitzpatrick. They played the Steelers, but they had to play Landry Jones. They've played Geno Smith. Not Geno Smith, I'm sorry, Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I already said that. They've played some very weak caliber quarterbacks. But
they played the Browns. What I think you can say is they beat Big Ben. Although what you could say is they beat Big Ben, but he also didn't have Bell in that game for some of it, right? I think he went out in that game.
And I don't get the Steelers. They have arguably the best running back, arguably the best wide receiver, and a top 10 quarterback in the league. I just don't understand why they're so inconsistent.
They can't seem to do anything with them.
Maybe Big Ben is an elite, Well, I'll tell you, they beat Trevor Siemian, they beat Joe Flacco, they beat Goff, they beat, like you said, Fitzpatrick, they beat Kaepernick. The one game they actually did play a quarterback was the Seahawks, and Russell Wilson beat them.
That was his best game of the year. Yep.
Yeah. They beat the Bengals. They torched the Browns. The Bills beat them, but the Bills beat them when they didn't have.
They still had Jacoby at quarterback.
So if you have Jacoby in there, or if you have Tom Brady, I think that Bills game goes differently.
Yeah.
But
they almost lost the Carson Palmer in them. They almost because that field goal.
Yeah, but like you said, they didn't have Tom Brady in that game either. They had Jimmy G in there, so Tom Brady, that may be a different story.
Yeah, but this year's diverse Atlanta attack is a few weight classes up from that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Falcons are definitely a high-powered offense, so we'll see what that Patriots defense does against a high-powered offense. Hopefully, so I think the problem with this Falcons team, I think what they're going to run into is that they don't have very long drives. They're a score, quick, fast kind of offense. So yes, that can be good, But when you have Tom Brady, the one of the keys is to keep him off the field as long as possible. So you don't really want that quick strike offense all the time, because you're going to have the time of possession is going to be way skewed. Tom Brady can masterfully craft a game where he's on that field for so long. So I think one of the keys is to really use that backfield to have the time of possession in your favor. I think is going to be the things they're going to need to focus on.
Yeah. I don't particularly see Tom Brady having a whale of a game if they're able to get pressure on him. He was getting really flustered and frustrated when the Texans were getting hits, and even when the Steelers were getting some hits on him. If the Falcons can put pressure on Tom Brady, he's not going to be in for a very productive game.
No, and I think that's one of like you said, the keys to the game. Do we want to do predictions?
Yeah, y'all go first.
Bryan, you go first.
I'm still thinking, man.
All right. Well,
are we talking scores or?
I'm gonna. Yeah, with scores. I'm gonna say that the game ends up being. I could see 38-35.
Okay.
I think it's close, and I think a field goal. I think a field goal wins it. I think Matt Ryan takes over the ball, drives it down, and is able to get that last-minute field goal to win the game. So 38-35.
I know it's a very, very, very broad spectrum per se, but I don't think anybody's scoring over 30. But they're both going to score at least over 20, just somewhere between there. But I'm hoping and I'm thinking that possibly Atlanta's going to come back and barely win this. It's just going to be a really close, tough game.
And I am gonna be the lone man. I am saying the Patriots are gonna pull it out just solely for the fact that it's Bill Belichick. Tom has been here. This is gonna be a 7th time. He's not gonna have cold feet whatsoever. He's gonna come out swinging, and that's my only problem is that I don't know if Matt Ryan will. That's not to take anything away from him. He's had a really, really good season. I have the Patriots winning 34-24. I hope I'm wrong. I'm rooting for the Falcons. So hopefully next week we do this podcast, do the next episode, and hopefully I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I'm rooting for the Falcons, but I'm picking with my brain, and I think the Patriots are going to pull out the win.
Yeah, I could.
99% of America hopes you're wrong.
Yeah, I can see it. You know me. I've been riding the Falcons all season long, so.
No, I'll be rooting for him. Don't get me wrong, but if Bill Belichick gets the coin toss, and if he can get in a quick score and drop 7 points right before the half, and then get possession for second half, that's a 14-point swing right there, and that's just pretty impossible to overcome when you got Tom Brady at the helm for the Patriots, and he's got all these assets.
Unless you're Matt Ryan, and you can do it.
Matt Ryan has had a great year, so if any offense could do it, it would be the Falcons right now. I'm rooting for the Falcons. I hope they win. I like the Falcons.
This is their second time since '98, right?
Yeah, they lost to John Elway.
Yeah.
John Elway and the Broncos.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw out the stat to Bryan because he hadn't heard this. Did you know, Bryan, that Tom Brady has started 14% of all Super Bowls?
Why, yes, I heard that the other day.
I know, that's crazy.
That's such a bizarre stat to me. That is insane.
I know. That's crazy.
It's just weird to think that though. Like, there's been a lot of Super Bowls. Obviously, this is 51.
To be exact. Yeah.
It's just like this dude has been so many.
You know, he's accounted for probably like 40% of the Super Bowls we've seen. About.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, almost half of the Super Bowls we've watched has had Tom Brady. That's insane.
Tom Brady or Big Ben? Big Ben's been to a lot of them in our lifetime. A couple.
Big Ben, yeah. Peyton Manning.
I think he's been in 3 or 4, yeah.
So that's our predictions. I'm hoping the Falcons are gonna pull out the game. Matt Ryan deserves it. He's had such a stellar season. I like Dan Quinn. I like Atlanta in general. So I hope that they can get the win. I don't really have as much hype as everyone else does. I don't think it'll be that so amazing to see Roger Goodell give Tom Brady the trophy. I mean, they're going to have straight faces. They're going to be professional. You're not going to see any drama on the stage. So I don't need to see the Patriots win just to see a little bit of awkwardness on stage. That I don't care.
Like I said, I would almost rather see them not get it and see the sad looks on all their faces.
Yeah. Just one more thing I want to touch on real quick. I know we're dragging this out a little bit. We've got to hit this. We always hit it every week. Please follow us on social media. Follow us at _HurryUp on Twitter. Follow us at the HurryUp page on Facebook. And we're now on YouTube. Our videos are going to be posted on social media. So give us a follow, spread the word, retweet, hashtag, and all that fun stuff. We need the following. Well, that wraps up this week. I hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Thanks for listening.
See you guys.